don't know what I was thinking when I bought this. G'day and welcome to the shed. Well, here it is in its pristine beauty. It's His Master's Voice, although you can't really read that there. And I guess it's their knockoff of a Dan Set, a little record player. I bought this on Gumtree, and the price was right, so I snapped it up quickly. When I went to pick it up, the seller wasn't there. He'd left it outside for me. I had paid him online. And I, for some reason, thought it had a radio in it. I don't know why, because there's no dial there. I assumed there was a dial or something inside, but no, what I've got is a record player. And as you can see, it's in pristine condition. It's some slight damage to the rec scene covering. Oh my God, what am I going to do with this? Comes with a custom order of a spare missing centerpiece for the turntable. It's got knobs attached to the front, so hopefully it's got some kind of a chassis or something inside. I really don't know. See, yeah, the mechanism turns. I'm not going to power it up because I really don't know what's on the other end of this cord just yet. Yeah, well, I guess we'll open it up and see what's inside, if I can work out how. Okay, I've turned it around so you can better appreciate its pristine beauty. You'll notice it comes with pre-rusted fittings, which I'm sure is a very avant-garde touch for this type of player. Mostly they came with chrome fittings, and oh gee, this may once have been plated, or it's hard to say. I don't think there's anything we can do with them. I was looking at how it comes apart, and the only thing I can figure out is that this panel here seems to have a few missing screws, and I think you might I might just have to get something to prise this out. Oh no, there it is, that's coming. Does that? Yeah, the whole motorboard lifts up. Okay. Oh, what have we got here? We'll take that away. Oh, we've got something attached there. Whoa. Oh, it's a plug. That's handy. Oh, it's the same sort of plug that was on the HMV radiogram I did recently. And we've got a couple of wires going to the pickup. Oh, these push in as well. I wonder if they'll come out. Better try and remember what I'm doing. Okay, so the inner core goes to the red wire, and the screen goes to the black wire. I suppose that's logical. They're a bit stiff, but here we go. There we go, cobwebs and all. I'll just put them down here. That'll be right there for the moment. And in the back we have the remains of a valve diagram, and it says 6V4. Well, okay. And we have a missing valve and one valve which is indeed a 6V4. Don't know what the other one would be. Maybe a 6M5, don't know. This is not going to help us much. In the corner here, apart from the cord, we've got a transformer. Doesn't look dead, at least. We've got an output transformer. Gee, I don't think there's going to be much in this chassis. And in the corner here, among the mouse dirt, is a collection of screws and little cup washers. I'm going to wash my hands after this. But it's probably doable. Look, I may as well. Might be a neat little record player when it's finished. I don't think the performance is going to be outstanding, but it probably never was. Just clean this up a bit. See if there's some. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'd like to know what that other valve is. It doesn't have any kind of model number that I can see. Oh, what's that? 5472 stamped on the chassis, just next to the transformer. I'll tip it upside down and see if I can get the chassis out after I've fished out all these screws and things. Okay, well, I fished out all the little nuts and bolts, and there was a tiny little washer in there which worries me a little bit, because things like that usually mean that someone's pulled something to bits and lost a few parts. Anyway, let's try and... I think these knobs are a push fit, so I'll try and... Oh yeah, they're coming off. And that's intact, it's not broken, that's something. This mesh speaker here, it's slightly dented. I'm hoping I can flatten it out. A little nest of some wasp or something. Don't know what that is in there. Okay, now I'll just tip it up on its side and see if I can get the chassis out. I don't suppose that lid detaches. No, not without screws. Oh yeah, a couple of screws in the bottom here. Looks like that'll take the chassis out. Okay, well, at least they turn. I guess I better hold it from the inside. The Rexine covering on the bottom's alright. If necessary, I might be able to scavenge some of that to fix the top. I've done worse before. This stuff's hard to get now. You can get it, but it's expensive. Marketed, I believe, as Tolex, but it's just pretty much the same stuff. The only way to do it properly, is to do it with Tolex. Let's see if I can get some. I don't want to throw heaps of money at this, but it's pretty much all or nothing with something like this. Alright, let's have a look at this. Wow, the complexity. Okay, so we've got a couple of paper caps there, a couple of resistors, 3 paper caps, half a dozen resistors. That's it. I suppose what I could do is just work out where the plate voltage is, screen voltage, where the grid goes into this, work out the pin numbers, and see what valve that would fit. Yeah, I'll trace this out. In fact, I suppose I could cautiously put some voltage on it and see where it comes out. It'd be easier to trace the circuit, I think. Okay, it's attached to the speaker, so I'll have to take that out before I can put it out on the bench, I think. Oh, well, I finally found a socket to fit those screws. 7mm, must be, what, 9/32 or something. Sticking my head in front of it as usual. There we go. Oh my God, look at that. Ah. What a mess. Look at that. That's... Take away the dust and it'll fall apart. That's... waste of time. Do these connections come off anyway? Still, it's as well to know the worst. That is, I don't know, maybe I can find a speaker lying around somewhere that'll do the job. It's more than I can fix, and it's certainly not worth getting it reconed. Okay, well, I've been doing a bit of Googling, and one thing I'm certain of, it's not going to be a 6M5. I thought that initially because I've just had a couple of radios that used the same rectifier in a 6M5 tube, but I don't know what I was thinking there. Well, I wasn't thinking. Anyway, so apparently these chassis use a triode pentode valve, so basically two valves in one, and that's the only way you'd get enough gain to do it with, well, essentially one valve. It's not really one valve, it's two valves in one. And so the signal's fed to the grid of the triode. The plate of the triode is coupled to the grid of the pentode, so you get two stages. And when you look at the underside, now I know the pinouts, I can explain this easily, but I didn't know at the time. So you've got this 220k resistor from the power supply to pin 1. That's got to be a plate. We have a red wire here, which I don't know if you can see, but it also runs down to the power supply. That's got to be another plate. So the thing's got two plates. It's got this 0.05 cap, I think it's a 0.05, which has got to be a coupling cap from this plate to this pin here, which is probably going to be the grid. This setup here's got to be a bias arrangement. So anyway, I drew out the circuit and scratched my head about it a lot, and I couldn't work out what the actual valve is. So I knew the type of valve, but I didn't know what it was. I tried a few examples. None of them actually worked for pinouts. I did think I might just rewire the socket to a valve that I could get. But I put out a call for help on the Facebook radio page, and within hours I had several suggestions, a couple of which were wrong, but today I've found out exactly what it is. It's a 6AB8, equivalent to an ECL80. So all I've got to do is get my hands on one of them, and I don't think they're that rare. I should be able to get one easily enough. So I think with that I should be able to get this going. Now obviously there's a couple of caps to change. I'll check the resistors and change anything that's out of tolerance, and I want to change these power supply electrolytics. There's 3-in-1 in this can. The main ones, the 25 UF power supply caps with a pi filter. You can see the cap across between the two pins there. Yeah, it's unplugged. I realised that I've run out of 24 UF caps. Unfortunately, I'll have to put in an emergency order to Carl's Capacitors to see if I can get some more. So while I'm waiting for the valve to come and the capacitors, apart from giving this thing a clean up, I won't bother to recap it until I've got the parts and I can test it and see what I'm doing. I think the next thing is I've got the case and I've got the turntable to worry about. I'm kind of thinking I might see if I can make sure I can get the turntable going, because if I can't do that, the whole thing's a waste of time. So I'll put this aside until I get the parts I need, and let's just have a look at the turntable. Okay, well, I've got the turntable out, and they didn't even run to an automatic changer for this. This is just a single record turntable. I presume it'll be activated by pulling the arm back. It's got a speed change, 78, 45, 33, 16. I've never come across a speed 16 record, although I believe some talking books and things like that were speed 16. Immediately obvious thing is that the centerpiece for this turntable's missing. They normally have a plastic, usually a brown plastic plate, with a little flange on it, and the turntable mat just sits under the edge there, and it sits nicely. What's usually missing is the mat, and the plastic's there, so I've got the reverse problem. See, these planes are flying over a lot today. This is annoying. Okay, the plane's gone now. So I don't know what my options are here. Well, there's a couple of things I can do. I can try and make I can try and get a plastic centre, but I don't really fancy my chances. I can try and make one that will sit in there. It obviously attaches through these 3 holes, and I don't know quite how I'd go about that. I could possibly make one out of plastic or something. I'll have to think about that. Or another option is to get a new turntable mat. I won't throw this away, but I'm sure someone would be able to use it, and just put on a new mat. Either make one out of felt or buy a turntable mat and cut it to fit. I'll just have to see what turns up. I'll do some searching, see if I can buy a plastic centerpiece for a start. If not, we might go to the turntable mat. I don't think a felt mat would really suit this, although it might look alright. I've got some brown felt there that I use for wind-up gramophones. It could possibly work. Okay, so take that out. It's got a typical turnover cartridge, mono of course, and you flip it over and you've got one stylus for 78 shellac records and one stylus for vinyl records. The wiring looks intact. The stylus pressure is pretty heavy, but it's what you get with these things. And it's still screwed into the motorboard here, so I think I'll take that out. The turntable doesn't unclip from the top like most of them. It actually appears to have this grub screw in the side here, which probably allows the turntable to be removed. I'll take the motor out, lubricate it. Oh gee, it's hanging in completely dead rubber grommets, so that won't be working. Yeah, alright, so these are the clips that are supposed to be in it. The last turntable I worked on was held in by, I think they were pieces of spring cut and put through the hole. They were dreadful to get out. Anyway, I'll have to wrestle with these a bit, so I don't think I will actually. They're not that bad, really. Now, there's a trick to these, isn't there? I think there is. You screw it down. Okay, so I screwed the thing all the way in. Then you just tip them, and that should go through the hole. I'll do the same on the other side. Okay, and just tip him up, and he goes back through the hole. Gee, I wish the last one I did was that easy. There we go. Put that aside. That might clean up all right. It doesn't look damaged. Alright, so let's lift the turntable off and have a look at what's underneath. I'll just take out this little screw here. Don't want to lose that one. And the turntable should, in theory, just lift off, yep. Okay, and it does have a cutout at the end which will be activated by this. Oh yeah, that trips this. Oh, there's another one of those little washers. I found one like this in the bottom of it. I bet that's something important. I don't know. I'm going to put it aside anyway. I'll clean it up and we may find out where it belongs. Now, this motor. Oh my God, look at those grommets there. Yeah, it has absolutely, well, the mountings have seen better days. The motor spins fairly freely, perhaps a little bit stiff. The bearings, well, I'll give the bearings a bit of a clean and lube. The idler wheel still has some softness to it. It's not completely hardened off. This mechanism's jammed, but that's pretty much what I'd expect. Alright, so I'll take the motor out and we'll give that a clean up for a start. So off with its circlips. Not putting the screwdriver through my finger. Yep, and at least it didn't go flying across the shed this time. Now there's another one under that arm there, which I can probably get to. I probably should be using something a bit smaller. Here we go. Yes, I know this is tedious. I'll probably cut most of it out. That one doesn't even have to be removed because it's completely disintegrated. And yes, we live in a flight path, but I think that's a train, not an aircraft. We get trains here as well, just to add to the variety of noise. And we have a switch which looks very similar to one I recently dealt with. How's that held in? I probably don't have to, but I'm going to mark where this goes anyway. Perth Airport is busy today. Someone asked me what had happened to the aircraft that were always flying over in my videos, and I had started editing them out, but it becomes just too much trouble, so I think this time I'll just work around it. Right, we have a screw just there, just behind the shut-off mechanism, holding in the switch, and that will be the switch falling to the ground and breaking. No, by some miracle it doesn't seem to have broken. Alright, so put the switch at the back here, and I think I have some of these grommets left still. Just take off the idler wheel. There we go. And there will be one fibre washer on top of it. No, there's two fibre washers on top of it. And one underneath. Yes, another aeroplane. Okay, now I think I'll need to remove this post. Oh, put the idler wheel somewhere safe. Okay, so I'll just remove this post and take out the speed change mechanism. Okay, so now this post, along with the rest of this, should just come off. Just unhook this spring if I can. Looks like this end might be easier. Ouch, don't do that. So now this mechanism should just lift off together with its post, and it has that washer underneath. Now this has to move freely up and down that pin as well as back and forth, and it does not move at all. It's solid. This arm is at least moving. I'll put this aside for a sec. This slider mechanism does kind of move, but a good clean out will do wonders for that. It's bath time for this mechanism, so first of all I'll give it a good dose of WD-40 and a bit of a scrub. And look at all that stuff. Okay, rinse and repeat. This mechanism here has to be pretty good. I'll take that off in a minute and clean it, but for the moment I'll just clean around it. I'll just give this a wash down. Okay, so that's cleaned off pretty well, back together. This side, I'm just going to give it a spray with starter fluid. Now that's to get rid of the WD-40, because WD-40, good stuff, but it doesn't, not good as a long-term lubricant. It tends to go dry after a while. So the starter fluid removes the WD-40, and I'll either put a drop of oil on these, or in some cases I use inox, which retains its oiliness for a lot longer than WD-40 does. So that should be alright now. I'll put some in there because it seems to have got under the plastic there. Hopefully that'll dry out alright. And I'll give this part a final clean up. Okay, so I've cleaned out the centre bearing hole, and I'm just going to put just a clean rag with some inox on it, and just press down the end there just to take out any remaining debris, but I'm pretty happy that there's nothing left in that. Yeah, that's coming out as clean as it went in, and yeah, that looks good. Okay, I'll take this rubber surround off too and give it a clean in warm water. I haven't seen this on other BSR changes. It must have been only on the manual ones or something. I don't know. Anyway, it's coming off in one piece, which is good. He says, breaking it in half. Oh, that's possibly a natural join in it, I think. I'll just have to be careful to put that at the back. Alright, so put that aside. Well, I've given it an initial clean up with spray and wipe on the top and whatever, and it hasn't turned out too badly. The remaining thing to do, and this is dry now, so the remaining thing to do is this linkage, which is seized onto this post, which has to both rotate and move up and down. I'll try a bit of inox on it, see if that'll free it up. Failing that, I can try heat. And I'll just try and move it. It really doesn't want to move. I'll just try gently turning it with this. I don't want to damage it though. I'm gripping it by the part that goes through the base plate. That shouldn't. There we go, we have some movement, I think. Yes, that is moving on it. That's a start. That should be okay there. There we go. Alright, so I'll give that a bit more of a clean up. With the mascara brush again. Does a good job this. Okay, and I'll just get this with a bit of superfine steel wool and inox and just gently rub the surface. Okay. Yeah, that feels smooth. I think that'll be fine. Right. So I'll just dry it all off and put just some light machine oil on that, I think. I'm not going to grease it, and it has to move very freely. I thought we'd better have a look at this motor. It's not spinning as freely as it should. If you spin it, it does spin okay, but it slows down and stops fairly quickly, which suggests that there's some friction there in the system. Okay, it's not going to cooperate that way. I'll try turning it from here. That's easy. That one out. And the other side is held on with just a nut. Out you go. Out. And I think it might be an idea to mark this before I alter it. Now I have to take the spindle off, which is just a little grub screw. Hope that came off easily. There's possibly a second one. Yeah. And we'll have to adjust the height of that once we get it back in the turntable. Now, this should just lift out. And that looks pretty messy there. Same with that. Okay, well, I'll just give that a clean up. I'm not sure what type of bearing that is in there. There's nothing to fall out, it doesn't seem. I might just get my clean-up tray. Okay, so I'll just give this a bit of a clean-up with WD-40. Won't do it any harm. Gee, it's running out. And the other side probably not been in the dust so much, so it's not too bad. Brush the cobwebs and bugs out of it. Now for the rotor, I'll just give that a spray again with WD-40 and a bit of a clean up. And we've got this little fibre bush there, which will be alright. And we have got an accumulation of gunk on the spindle there, so that will be well gone. And I notice there's a little bit of maybe corrosion on the spindle there. I'm not sure if that's going to affect anything. I don't think so. But I might just give it a rub with a little bit of the old superfine steel wool. Just to take anything off it. Put it over there. Now, there's a top bearing here. And I'll just get a cotton bud and clean that out. Should have one here. So, there's a bit of muck in it. Okay, so with this top bearing, I'm just going to give it a dose of light machine oil. And leave that to just soak into it for a while. I'll do the same with the bottom bearing after I've cleaned it out. some starter fluid there, and once that's evaporated I'll fill that with oil and let it soak. That's about evaporated now. A little bit of machine oil, that'll do wonders for it. Okay, so I'll let that soak. May as well give the washers and bits and pieces a bit of a scrub. Okay, well that's been sitting for a little while. Now it's a matter of putting it back together the way I took it apart, and I'm glad I did mark it. This bottom bearing carrier does sneak into place where it was, and as far as I can tell, provided I've got it all the right way around, the bearing should line up without hitting anything. That has a little bit of movement in it though. That's not sitting in. Oh, there we go. That's sitting in nicely. Okay, just needed a bit of a press. Now with that in place, we should be able to. I've oiled those bearings, so I don't think I need to do anything else. I'll just put one drop perhaps on the spindle. Lower him into the field. Now that will be rubbing, so I need to get the top piece on nicely centered so that it doesn't do that. Okay, so this being able to move around, this is not necessarily a good thing. Right, that's sitting in there. That's much better. So now I'll just put this screw through here, screw the post on the other side. Did that have a star washer? No, it didn't. It's got a star washer on the other side, but that's all. Okay. And this one will have its nut on this side. Did that pretty firmly, but not too tight. And the other side as well. Be all right. And that's spinning nicely, even without the weight of the pulley on top. So I'll put these on. Now there's just the drive pulley, and what I'll do is I'll clean that up. What I might do is put it in on the motor, and while it's spinning just touch it up with a little bit of steel wool. Well, the motor's back together. It's got this 2-pin plug on it, and the only thing I've got to plug that into is the chassis. So I've taken the rectifier tube out, so this has now got nothing on it. It'll just be running the motor, and I'll just put some power on it, and yep, seems to be running well. There's no vibration in it that I can feel. It's running nice and smoothly. Right, the grub screw's tightened. Put some power on it, and I'm just touching it with some very fine emery paper. This is 1200 grit. I'll start with a 78 spindle and just give it a little clean up here. Just gently, don't want to overdo it. That's looking fine. Now the 45 Speed Spindle. Any irregularity on this spindle gets transmitted through the idler wheel to the turntable, and you do hear it. You pick up in the form of rumble and stuff. So this really benefits from being cleaned up. It'll give you a quieter turntable. I don't know if I can dress up the 16 Speed Spindle, I suppose. And just because I'm being pedantic, I'll just touch up the tops of them, but that doesn't bear on any surface, so that doesn't matter. Alright, that's all that's needed with that, I think. Okay, so let's have a look at the idler wheel. Now, this is what I did on the last radiogram I did, and it worked. It seems fairly primitive, but I'm just going to put this 5mm screw through here, and it has to be just a nice fit so it doesn't damage the bearing surface in there. That's the last thing you want to do. Put a nut on it, and I'm going to put it in the drill, and hopefully it'll run true enough so that I can just dress up the edges. Okay, so I just put that in there, tightened it up just gently. I don't want to make it too tight. I'll put this in the drill. And hopefully it's got a little bit of wobble on it, but I think I should be able to work with that. Just get this fine emery paper, 1200 grit, and I'll just run it along the edge in the other direction. And that should be all we need, really. That's looking pretty good. Okay, I've got the turntable base plate cleaned up pretty much as well as I can. I'm just going to try and put on this black rubber strip that I I took off it. It's not in bad condition. It's starting to perish a little bit around the edges, but mostly on the inside, which is not going to be visible. Will hopefully meet up at the other end if I haven't stretched it or anything. Oh, it is a bit. I don't know why they put this on. I haven't seen it on other BSR turntables, but then I've only really worked on automatic changes before, so this one is slightly different in a number of respects. Oh, I've got a little bit of metal polish left on there. Alright, so I'll just pop this idler mechanism back in. It does have this little washer which goes on the bottom of it. That goes through that hole there. a little bit fiddly. This bar has to go through there, and that has to go through its hole there. So that comes through there. It will just have its star washer and a nut. Which you don't want to drop. A nut on there. I'll just tighten it gently. And that should, by rights, all be okay. Oh, my rubber strip's coming off. Oh dear. So this is now in place. I have to just get this spring attached. I think it just goes through there. Yep, that'll be fine. Now the next thing is to mount the motor. So I'll need some grommets. I've rummaged through my collection of grommets and found 3 that I think will do the trick. So I'll put one in there. They're slightly loose, but I don't think that's going to be a big problem for us. One in there. And this one in here is a little bit tricky. This has to go under there. That should be all right. Stricken from the back. That's fine. Now, place the motor spindles through the grommets. Yep, that's the way it goes. It had these 3 washers on top. And I think that will be in about the right position. We can adjust the spindle for height. So we need 3 circlips. And is also proving a little bit tricky. You know you want to grab him from behind and try and push him on that way. There. All right. Now with that, there we need to check the spindle position, move it up and down so that it engages with the roller. Now that's on 78 at the moment. I'll just put the idler wheel on. And it's sitting at the top of the 78, so that spindle needs to come up, and that's actually without any weight on it. I'll need to prop this up on something. Alright, I found some blocks of wood to hold it up. Now that's in the 78 position. It should be rubbing against the bottom of this spindle, so I'll need to move the spindle up. One grub screw and the other one is just there. Move this up to about there. Just tighten that. Now I'll put it on 45. That's the middle of the 45 spindle and the middle of the 33. And if that isn't the middle of the 16 one, I don't care, because I don't have any 16 records and I don't think many other people do. But it is good anyway. It's where it should be. What's that? That's 16. There's a neutral position marked between 33 and 16, and I think the idea is just to park the idler wheel off the spindle so that it doesn't get a dent in it if it's left for some time. 33, 45, 78. Okay, I think that'll be fine. I'll just tighten those grub screws up. Okay, so now I'll put the idler wheel on, and I'm just going to lubricate this with a tiny drop of machine oil. You don't want too much on this. You don't want it getting on the idler wheel edge at all. I think that'll be enough. Now, I'd have these 3 fibre washers. I think there was one underneath and 2 on top, if I remember. I'll put the idler wheel on, keeping the oil away from it. Another one of those on top. And yeah, I think it had one on there. I don't know if it needs it or not. And the inevitable circlip, which I'll attempt not to lose. Here we go. Runs freely. Now we can put the there's a switch to go back in and the turntable to be mounted, so I'll do the switch first. And where was it? It was just there. Alright, now if I can balance this and get a screwdriver around the other side, I might be in business. Don't fall. No. Okay, we'll try it another way. It's very easy to take out, but then a lot of things are. Yeah, that'll work. So if I hold it up like that, okay. its proper spot. Good. I'll put it up here for the moment. So the turntable. I'll put this in the park position between 16 and 33. Now, I think the best thing for this turntable is just a goodly dollop of grease on the end of it. Bit around the side and a bit in the groove where the screw goes. I don't know if that's right, but that's what I'm doing. And we'll just slot it into here. And its little screw goes through there and stops it from falling off. Okay, so if I just, I'll take this away now. I'll just set this up here. And it should be alright to try it out. So I'll just put the turntable mat on. I've got it plugged into the chassis again with the rectifier tube is still out of it. So I'll put on some power. Now this will need to go onto a speed, 33 or 45. If I pull the arm out, it starts it. That's good. No motor noise that I can hear. And I'll assume that's playing a record, playing a record, playing a record, and it stops. No automatic turn off or no automatic arm removal, it just stops where it is. This is really top end stuff. Well, at least we've had a win with the turntable. It runs silently and plays through a record and stops. I guess that's all you could expect. There's quite a lot to do with this record player. I still need to look at the cartridge and see if we've got any output from it. Have to deal with the amp once my parts arrive, and then of course there's the case. So I'm going to have to leave this here and come back soon with part 2. So thanks for watching, and I hope you can join me soon in the shed for part 2.